Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the four-way speech contest sponsored by the Rotary Club of Merrimack and located right here in Merrimack, New Hampshire. I'm Maureen Mooney, the president of the Rotary Club of Merrimack for the 2015-2016 year, and it's a privilege certainly to MC this event. The four-way speech contest originated in the late 90s by the Rotary Club, and it's a way for students in our community to enhance their written and speaking skills. Each presentation is centered around the tenets of being a Rotarian, which are recited before each Rotary meeting. They are, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And is it beneficial to all concerned? Along with Rotarians from the Merrimack Rotary Club, we're also joined by the Hollis Brookline Club. If you're a Rotarian present tonight, please raise your hand, and let's have a big round of applause for those who put service above self. For more information on our club or Rotary International, please go to merrimackrotary.com and rotary.org. Now, according to the contestant rules for tonight, each speech is limited in terms of its time limit. In addition, each speech must apply the Rotary four-way test in connection with other topics or life experiences as a main topic. So let's begin now with our first contestant, and we'll start the contest once that contestant reaches the stage.
Throughout all of society, no matter how much research or development is done, there is always one thing that we can never seem to escape, and that is death itself. At some point in our lives, whether by an accident or by natural circumstances, death claims us for its own and takes us from this world. Some believe in afterlife, some believe in reincarnation, and some believe in nothing at all. Yet we all seem to agree on one thing: death is unwanted. Death affects more than just the deceased victim. It affects everyone that they were close to, including all of their friends and family. And sadly, though, there were some people who would actually wish to end someone else's life on purpose, and would do so with no intentions of remorse or regret, and no hesitation. These people do not belong anywhere in society and deserve exactly what they inflicted on others: death. By federal law, an individual can be punished by death for a multitude of reasons, but all of them are based around murder. For example, if someone kills another while already doing something illegal, then it is most often punishable by death. Like in a bank robbery, if anyone is killed in the attempt, then they are facing capital punishment. A prisoner who tries to escape while facing a life sentence and kills another prisoner is in the same situation. The reason that the death penalty is enacted is so that those that are evil enough to end another's life will no longer have a place in society. It deters people from murder because they know what they are faced against. It provides closure to the families of the deceased because they know now that the person who did so much damage to their family no longer has any place and won't be a threat to anyone in society. However, there are some that believe that the death penalty is too harsh, and that the worst form of punishment should be life without parole, an eternal prison sentence where the convict is condemned to die in prison. The truth, however, is that life without parole is not enough. The convict is still a risk to the other prisoners. If the murderer felt that they wanted to kill someone else in the prison, they would easily be able to do so at the right time. Life without parole can also be seen as cruel and unusual punishment. In fact, according to many criminal defense lawyers, many convicts sentenced to life without parole actually end up wishing that they had received the death penalty. While the death penalty kills you within minutes of it being administered, life without parole kills you slowly over time. As a prisoner, knowing that you are to spend your whole life in prison can drive you crazy. According to deathpenaltyprosandcons.org, it can make you lose all hope of happiness, and your family becomes a memory. For most people given life without parole, their families visit them often in the first few years, but slowly dwindles down to never, and most lose their spouses. Reality hits them, and they realize that everything they've worked for in their life didn't matter anymore. Doesn't matter how hard they work for an education, how much effort they put into their job, how much time and energy they put into raising their child, or how much they owned. All of it was lost, and all of it was outside. That alone is enough to drive a person insane, and not many people can relate to it. The truth is that the death penalty is a more humane treatment than suffering in a prison cell. It can be related to a pet that is sick. It's more humane to euthanize it than to let it suffer. Another thing to consider is the tragedy that the families of the deceased person go through. Everyone has lost someone close to them, but most people don't have to deal with the fact that knowing someone chose to end their loved one's life while they get to continue living. They go through feelings of sorrow and anger at the same time, and the death penalty brings them closure. Knowing that the convict who killed a loved one is still out there, even if they are in prison, can still hurt. I'm going to ask you to think back to April 15th, 2013, the day of the Boston Marathon. Martin Richard was enjoying the beginning of his April vacation just like any other 8-year-old. He was planning to spend much of it either playing street hockey or basketball with his friends. And just like any other year, the Richards made their way downtown to watch their friends finish the last leg of the marathon. This had been the tradition of Bill and Denise Richard before they had even had children. And as all 3 children were avid runners, they became more and more interested each year. Pushing past people to get to the front of the crowd, they got front row view of the action and were able to high-five the runners. Martin was so excited to be there in the action, and his smile brought his whole family to cloud 9. The very last thing that Bill and Denise remember hearing their son say was, "How old do I have to be to run a marathon?" Before they could even respond, the first explosion went off. Bill remembers a loud bang and a plume of smoke, and everyone running into the street for safety. Running with his family close by, he doesn't even remember the second bomb going off. The last thing he remembers was the fear in his son's eyes after the first explosion, a look that would haunt him forever. He next remembers sitting in the ambulance with his daughter Jane and his son Henry. Denise had been brought to a different hospital, but Martin was gone, killed in the explosion. Jane, at age 7, had lost her leg, while her mother Denise was left blinded in one eye. But all of this seemed trivial compared to what they had lost. 4 days later, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, primary suspect in the bombing, was brought and treated to the same hospital that Denise was being treated at after he was arrested. Prior to this, Dzhokhar and his brother had killed 2 police officers and injured 16 more in a gunfight. Dzhokhar himself had killed his brother by driving out over him after police had apprehended him. Tsarnaev, with the funds available to him, found one of the best attorneys in the country to defend him from the death penalty. He pleaded not guilty to all 30 charges against him. Reports also say that he shows no signs of regret or remorse. In fact, Tsarnaev even told authorities that him and his brother had planned to travel to New York and bomb Times Square after the marathon. Carrying back to the matter at hand, do people like this really deserve to live? Tsarnaev admitted to being influenced by Islamic extremists, the same extremists who carried out the attack of 9/11. Because of this man, Martin Richard will never be with us again. 3 people killed is 3 too many, and 264 more injured is plain evil and deserves nothing but a death sentence. In my opinion, it's not fair for Tsarnaev to live while so many others died and were injured because of his actions. For taxpayer money to be spent on keeping him alive is unfair to every law-abiding citizen in the country. Giving someone like Tsarnaev the death penalty benefits society because it frees us from the burden of knowing that he is still alive. It is very much like the way America could rejoice after killing Osama bin Laden. And it fosters goodwill in the way that it shows an example and keeps others from performing such heinous crimes. It makes this country a stronger and better place by cleansing society of the people that have no place or right as being a part of it. Think to yourself, would you be content knowing someone who harmed your family and took someone's life while they got to keep living theirs?
While the judges tally their scores, we'll take this opportunity to tell you about Rotary locally right here in the town of Merrimack. The Rotary Club of Merrimack meets each week on Thursday morning at 7:15 a.m. Our meetings begin. From 7 to 7:15 we have a time of fellowship just prior to the meeting. Each Rotarian takes turns hosting the meeting, which consists of a breakfast buffet, fellowship, brief meeting, and a guest speaker. Meetings end promptly at 8:30 in the morning, and guests have included members of our community and local business owners. We always welcome visitors to our meetings, and we always welcome new members. Again, our website for on the club level is merrimackrotary.com, and internationally it's rotary.org. Hopefully you'll catch it this time with my microphone on. Are we set? All right, our second contestant.
I remember the day clearly, even though I was only 8 years old. It was the day my father left for Iraq. I remember the horrible feeling in my gut. I still feel the tears running down my face. The image of my sister latched to my father, the sound of my mother and my grandmother crying. It was April 3rd, 2007. It was sunny out everywhere except at my house. I had the fear of losing my father in my heart and in my mind. I love my dad. I don't know what I would do without him. So you can imagine the sorrow in my heart. It was a hard year for me and my family. The feeling that something was missing was there from when I awoke to when I slept. It impacted my behavior and my grades, from what I can remember. When a day would end, my sister and I would make our way downstairs to a big calendar that had pictures of my father in his uniform or casual, and we would cross off a day. It was a whole year until my father came home, 2008, July 12th. I couldn't believe it. My dad was finally home. But something was different with him. I didn't know what, but I knew it was there. Until one day, my mother came home from grocery shopping. She brought them in through the garage door, and my parents' bedroom is right next to the garage. So when she slammed the door, my father heard it from the bathroom, and when she slammed the door, it was so loud that my dad wrapped himself around the base of the toilet. Now this is because during his time in Iraq, the base he was at would constantly be bombed by mortars, and he would have to grab his stuff and run for proper cover. Needless to say, my dad was having a flashback and was worried for his life. Over time, my father got the help that he needed and efficient care and support from his family. His condition was known as PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, which affects most, if not all, armed service members who have seen combat. My dad was lucky he had a home to come back to and efficient care. All veterans should have such support, but some are not so lucky. In fact, PTSD is one of the biggest contributors to our great nation's homeless veterans. There is an estimated 460,000 Iraq and Afghanistan veterans diagnosed with PTSD, according to the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans. PTSD and its lingering effects contribute to the homelessness, and according to the website Veterans Inc., that number is climbing, and it is a problem. Our veterans need more support so that they don't end up homeless. Is it true? A recent study by Veterans Inc. shows that there are between 529,000 to 840,000 homeless veterans on American streets. And 40% of these men and women have PTSD. These are brave men and women who have given their lives to fight for our freedom so we can live out our days freely. And in all honesty, we take advantage of that. So I ask you, is that fair? Can we fix it? Some places are trying. According to the Huffington Post, I learned that Virginia housed 1,432 homeless veterans since October of 2014 by incorporating the principles of Housing First, which is an approach to ending homelessness by giving permanent rental housing for people experiencing homelessness. Following that, New Orleans declared in December that they too had ended chronic homelessness, and in Houston, Texas announced the same in June as well. I applaud the tremendous work that these places have done to put an end to veteran homelessness, realistically, this isn't enough. I am happy to hear that society is doing its part in fighting the battle against homelessness, but the federal government needs to do its part too. Why? Because the federal government has the resources that society doesn't have access to. Society and the federal government need to pool their resources together in the form of a united front. Currently, the VA is responsible for providing vital services to American veterans. The VA provides healthcare services, benefit programs, and access to national cemeteries for former military personnel and their dependents. Now, I'm not saying that the VA doesn't help anyone, because they do. According to the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans, the VA provides health care to 150,000 homeless vets, but it can do more to benefit more. My grandfather, who was a Vietnam veteran, is an example of this. When he needed surgery, they put him on pain meds and had to wait. My grandfather eventually got the help that he needed, but in some cases, people have succumbed to their injuries in the wait and died. And again, like my dad, he had a good support network in place. Not every veteran does. But I have ideas to help them make the VA more efficient. First of all, if they were given more funding, they could build more buildings. More buildings lead to more people, and more people lead to more help, which makes shorter waiting lists. The VA could even hire homeless vets that have problems holding down a job. Taking care of our veterans will foster goodwill because it will help clean up the streets. According to the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans, veterans account for 11% of the United States homeless, and the number is climbing. If we can get all the homeless veterans off the street, that's 11% fewer homeless on the street. It will also help the workforce and in turn help the economy. Once they are all settled, they can contribute to society the countless trades that these men and women know, and in most cases are trained in to create different or add to existing business. If we work together, society and government, we can solve our homeless veteran problem and benefit society. We can get them off the street and into a home where they can live out their lives like they were supposed to.
The Merrimack Rotary Club prides itself in contributing to the community. Through various fundraisers that take place throughout the calendar year, our three biggest revolve around holidays. On the 4th of July, the club hosts a pancake breakfast and a family fun day of food vendors, bouncy houses, contests, crafts, music, and much, much more. On Thanksgiving Day, the club hosts the annual Turkey Trot 5K, and during the month of December, the club sells Christmas trees on Daniel Webster Highway at the Old Shaw's parking lot in the bitter cold. You can't miss us when we're there with our lights on, waiting for our next Christmas tree customer. Each of those fundraisers raises funds that we give directly back to our Merrimack community. And now for our next participant.
For my entire life, I have been the honor student, the kid that does all of our homework, the pleasure to have in class. At least I was, until my junior year, when after a 3-year battle with poorly treated mental illness, I cracked. I stopped doing all my assignments, my grades plummeted, and eventually the guidance department pushed me to drop all of my honors classes. I knew that changing classes would not help, however, because that would not fix the root of the problem, a debilitating mood disorder that had been plaguing me for most of my adolescence. I tried medications, but they often made me feel worse, and eventually I lost hope of there ever being any change, until I joined an outpatient program at a place called Direction, where I worked for months at changing my thoughts and behaviors. Had I never gotten serious help, I firmly believe that I would not be standing here before you all today. Mental illness is a serious issue among adolescents, and without comprehensive support for mentally ill students, they will not get better. Mental illness is often an invisible pathogen, and that makes it easy to ignore. Yet, 1 in 5 high school students, according to the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, will experience mental illness in their years in high school, meaning that in a class of 30 students, 6 are mentally ill on average. But let's take a step back. There are roughly 1,300 students at Merrimack High School, meaning that 260 of them are dealing with a mental illness right now. So, why can we not see them? The truth is that mental illness is too often stigmatized and kept hidden because it's an uncomfortable topic that many fail to understand. People often give little support, question someone's proposed illness, or become fearful of the ill and end up avoiding the conversation altogether. I can assure you that nobody knew really of my own problems when they were at their worst, as I feared these exact repercussions. Those that did know did not understand how to help, and so I did what many mentally ill people do in the face of stigma. I shrunk into myself. I thought that my friends and family would not accept me if I did not hide what I was feeling, and sometimes my fears were right. I remember when I finally came clean, and I remember all of the times after that I poured my heart out to various friends. At first, they were interested and supportive, but eventually I received little response, and I know why. It's exhausting dealing with someone who can't figure out how to get through life like a normal person. I saw the tiredness in my parents' faces, heard the annoyance in my friends' voices. Having a mood disorder changes your life forever, and most people don't really know what that means. Well, I can tell you. It is going several nights in a row with little sleep because you are constantly restless, and spending the following weeks barely able to get out of the bed out of the weight of major depression. It's being impulsive. It's being mean, and it affects everyone close to you. For me and for many others, the thought of being a burden is a major factor that prevents mentally ill from speaking out and trying to get help. But as I learned a direction, sometimes you have to be a burden because you deserve to get better. It is true that it takes a lot of courage to admit that one is mentally ill in the world that we live in, because of the backlash so often dealt, but mentally ill people cannot wait. But is it fair as well as true? Yes, because those who are struggling with mental illness deserve the same responses and support as those suffering from a physical illness. If you have a broken leg and someone asks you why you cannot run, you say that you have a broken leg. Admitting that you have a mental illness should be that simple. If you have bipolar disorder or depression and someone asks you why you don't always get out of bed and come to school, you should be able to say that you have bipolar disorder or depression. But there is the fear of being treated differently after admitting a fact such as that, and so it is replaced with, I was too tired, or I'm sick. If adolescent struggles continue to be hidden, students will have later difficulty having happy, productive lives, as they will become part of the 58 million American mentally ill adults. Now, will treating mental illness openly and thoroughly and ending the stigma foster goodwill? Monumentally. It will help both the mentally ill and their loved ones gain understanding and support, as well as better society. The sad truth is that it takes a decade on average for mentally ill persons to seek treatment with a mental health professional. Within that decade, their struggle only worsens, and the longer they wait, the higher their chances are of abusing illegal substances or taking their own lives. That decade is on us as a society. We can minimize the amount of time people wait to get help by dissipating the shameful cloud that surrounds mental illness, because if people feel more comfortable with their issues being known, they will be more likely to speak to a psychologist. Therefore, it will become beneficial to all, as more mentally ill people will be treated and more neurotypical people will be understanding. There will also be more teens in schools and fewer teens in juvenile prisons, as 50% of students with a mental illness drop out of high school and 70% of teens in prison have a mental illness, according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Lastly, and most urgently, the rate of youth suicide could drop dramatically if the stigma ends and kids reach out for help, as 90% of teens that commit suicide have an underlying mental illness. I know what it is like to not want to go on and to be afraid to say it, and it terrifies me that so many kids never feel comfortable enough to talk to someone. I could have just been another statistic, and if we don't stop pushing adolescents' problems off as typical teen angst, or it's all in your head, that statistic will continue to exist. In conclusion, mental illness is stigmatized and often left untreated, and yet it deeply affects adolescents in society. With 5% of all lifetime cases of mental illness beginning before age 24, it is important to act early and help teens before they become one of many mentally ill adults. Every small moment of honesty helps to end the stigma and educate people that may not understand mental illness. That is why I gave this speech. I know that speaking up will accomplish more than continuing to hide ever could. We are not crazy. We are people, and we deserve to be heard. The first step for all those suffering from mental illness is to be brave. And the first step for everyone else is to open their eyes, their hearts, their minds, and listen.
For those watching on Merrimack TV and those perhaps who arrived late, this is the four-way speech contest hosted by the Merrimack Rotary Club, and it was originated by the Rotary Club of Merrimack in the late 90s. We're also joined here this evening by members of the Hollis Brookline Club helping to judge the contestants tonight. Each contestant is to give a speech within a certain time frame that focuses on the four-way test, which makes up the tenets of being a Rotarian. Those tenets are: is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Our next contestant at this time.
My day starts at 5:52 a.m. when I hear the annoying beeping of my first alarm. I yawn, shut it off, and close my eyes. All of a sudden, I hear the beeping start up again. It's 6:10 already. I have to get up. I need to take a shower. I'm exhausted for working 7 hours the night before and not getting my homework done until 11:30. So I take my time, walk into the bathroom, turn on the shower, and let it get to temperature. As I walk in, I close my eyes again for what seems like 2 seconds. But then I hear another alarm go off. It's my 6:50 alarm. Great, I'm gonna be late. I'm rushing at this point, getting on any article of clothing I can find, grabbing all my stuff, and skipping breakfast. As I get in my car, I notice that I forgot to defrost my car. Great. At this point, I don't even care. I start driving and looking out the small portion of my window that's clear and get to school by 7:22. I speed walk to my first period class and barely make it. Others follow behind me as the bell rings. As I glance across the room, I notice bags under almost every student's eyes and coffees on the majority of their desks. I fight through the day and go home to finally eat some lunch. I finish up around 1 and do my daily set of chores. Dishes, laundry, picking up, and usually putting my brother and sister down from their naps. Now it's time for me to go to work. I won't get out of work until 8 or 9, and then after that is when I start my homework, which, as I said before, I won't get done until 11:30. That's when I can finally go to bed and relax. Sleep, repeat. This is the average life of a teenager, and I'm here to tell you it's exhausting. We're expected to do so much in a short amount of time. We're expected to be involved with sports and clubs, get good grades, go to college, save money for college, be social, and more. There aren't enough hours in the day to do this, but that's what is expected of us. These expectations are crippling, and something as simple as a later start time in the school day would have huge ramifications. Now, I don't want to give the impression I'm going to be up here complaining the whole entire time. I know that everyone is tired. But the hard facts support that biologically, the effects of exhaustion are detrimental to teens. And truth is, it's oftentimes out of our control. Research has proven that these negative effects are true. Because it takes so much time to do all these activities, teens aren't getting enough sleep. The average teen needs 8 to 9.5 hours of sleep each night. In 2006, the National Sleep Foundation took a poll, and less than 20% of teens reported actually sleeping that long. Surveys done in school report that many students don't go to bed until 11. So that means these students are getting 6 hours of sleep or less. It's not our fault that we want to go to bed later. During puberty, teens experience a shift up to 2 hours in their circadian rhythm, which means it's difficult to fall asleep early. Not only that, but teens' bodies don't begin to produce melatonin until 11 and continues to produce it until 7. That means that when a teen has to wake up at 7 a.m., it's like an adult waking up at 4 a.m. Not having a sufficient amount of sleep results in increased risk of high blood pressure and heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and obesity, according to the pediatric sleep specialist at the Children's National Health System in Washington. Each hour of sleep loss, a teen's risk of obesity rises to 80%. It can also result in risk-taking behavior, depression, suicidal tendencies, and car accidents. Driving sleep-deprived is equivalent to drunk driving because of the level of impairment. Not getting enough sleep also impairs judgment, decision-making skills, and the ability to restrain from impulses. I think we all know that these factors are crucial in the development of teens. All students make the excuse of just sleeping on the weekends. That can continue to compromise your sleep-wake cycle by causing permanent jet lag. Sleeping in shifts your internal clock, making it harder to fall asleep Sunday night and wake up Monday morning. So, is it fair? We're expected to hit the books every night and do our homework after during a full day of school, extracurricular activities, jobs, and studying. We don't have enough time to sleep. Without sleep, this vicious cycle can prevent students from doing their best in school and retaining the information that is given to them. Because they're so tired, students aren't reaching their full potential, and our poor teachers and students blame indifferent attitudes. But our not so good grades could be actually because we're tired. If society recognized the pressures teens face, it would create goodwill and benefit everyone. Having only an hour or more of sleep showed an increase in grade point averages and standardized test scores. We'd be able to do better at our homework because we'd be more focused. If school started at 8:30 or later, over 65% of students who weren't originally getting enough sleep would. There's so many possible benefits for students, from physical and mental health, to safety and academic achievements. A 3-year project on changing the start time of school has proven that grades have improved in more than one subject area, tardiness decreased, and at one school, teen car crashes even decreased by 70%. Teens who are afflicted with clinical depression and anxiety naturally improve over the summer, says the director of the nonprofit Start School Later program. She noticed this during her mental health counseling with teens. During the summer, we get more sleep because we're not waking up at 6 a.m. almost every day. Coincidence? I think not. But this definitely benefits society too. Consider a later start time benefits teachers because it would allow them to have extra time to collaborate with colleagues and have the ability to meet with their students for more tutoring and extra help opportunities. Furthermore, parents wouldn't be worried about their kids' grades all the time. 43 states have made this transition. So why not all of them? Why not every school in the country? We are the next generation. We need to shift the pressure. I'm 18 years old. I've been in good academic standing for my entire high school career. I'm a president of a community service club. I'm the second oldest of 5 siblings, and at one point I maintained 3 jobs during high school. I'm getting ready to face the real world. I'm stressed about what I'm going to do next. Shouldn't that be enough? According to conventional wisdom, I should have the world at my fingertips. I just hope I'm not too tired to grasp it.
Funds earned through annual fundraisers that the Rotary hosts every year are given directly back to the Merrimack community. The club funds 4 generous scholarships for Merrimack high school students, high school graduates. The scholarships are the Applied Technology Scholarship, the Community Service Scholarship, the Arts Scholarship, and the President's Award. The President's Award goes to a student who's studying in a particular area of study that the president for that Rotary year chooses to give the scholarship to. These Rotary scholarships assist residents in much-needed tuition assistance. And let's now welcome our next contestant.
When I was in elementary school, I was reminded each day to be nice to my classmates, respect the teacher, and have fun. Now I'm one out of many kids sent off to school with, be nice, respect the teacher, and be safe. This past September in Omaha, Nebraska, a 16-year-old student faced charges for bringing a loaded gun into his high school. Now the students at that school start each day with a greeting and a trip to the metal detector. As a community, we need to understand that school shootings and homicides are on the rise due to teenage gun possession. It is now that we need to take action to put a stop to it. Guns are easier than ever to obtain by teens. According to a researcher named Griffin Dix, about 1.5 million children live in a home where guns are kept inside the home unlocked. 41% of those teens know how to use a gun, and other teens buy guns off people on the streets. One officer in San Diego described a 10th grader who can name every popular gun and said, "As long as you got the money, you can get a gun." Some American citizens believe it would be safer to have more guns. But how will it be safer if guns can easily get into the hands of people who shouldn't have them? The main focus here is trying to prevent guns from getting into the hands of people who shouldn't have them without violating the rights of American citizens who do want to own guns. Is it true teens should not have access to guns? Yes. Firearm injuries are the second leading cause of death between ages 10 to 24 nationwide, according to Griffin. Year after year, the homicides and suicides of teens increases. When people hear this on the news or social media, their attention is grabbed right away. In fact, a recent story in Mother Jones suggests that the amount of newspaper attention that is given to a suicide may cause others to follow. The fact that we can prevent all of this from happening makes me mad and confused why we can't have better gun restrictions. Is it fair to restrict teens to guns? Most definitely. The Second Amendment states that people have the right to bear arms, but it also states that the federal government can limit any weapon types not having a reasonable relationship to the preservation or efficiency of a well-regulated militia. If the federal government can do that, then they should be able to decide what age group is capable of having a gun. Griffin also states that it's most possible that a teen carrying a gun has emotional or mental issues and will not hesitate to shoot anyone that gets in the way. Deborah Todd and colleagues at the Hospital Brain Center in Boston have studied and compared teenage brains to adult brains. The researchers found that adults can use rational processes when facing emotional decisions, while teenagers are simply not yet equipped to think through things in the same way. There's already so much violence in the world, the last thing we need are incapable, emotional teens with guns in their hands. Will limiting teenage access to guns create goodwill? Yes. The amount of crime will decrease, including suicides. Some people say that armed citizens make other people very nervous. The reason for this is because they know what people are capable of now from previous incidents, such as the Port Arthur massacre in Tasmania in 1996, where a gunman killed 32 people, or the school shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in 2012. This past September, CNN stated that among 38 states, 5.7% of high school students who live in states with stricter laws carried a gun within 30 days of that poll. In states with weaker laws, 7.3% of students carried a gun also in that same time. These statistics prove that teens from states with weaker gun laws were more likely to carry guns. In Australia, there has been 13 mass shootings between the years 1979 to 1996. After the Port Arthur massacre in 1996, the federal government implemented tough new gun control laws throughout the country. Many weapons were banned and imposed a mandatory gun buyback, which reduced the gun possession. Since 19 years ago, when the law was made, Australia has never witnessed any more massive shootings. If we can limit teenage access to guns, it will establish a safer environment for everyone. Will limited teenage access to guns be beneficial to all? Yes. More than 80% of people obtain firearms. Guns are involved in 83% of murders committed by the youth and 45% of suicides, according to the CDC data. In California and Illinois, they have very strict gun regulations. They require all gun sales to be processed through a licensed dealer, require gun dealers to obtain a state license, ban most assault weapons, and prohibits the sale or transfer of large capacity ammunition magazines. But California citizens get their guns from Nevada, while Illinois natives turn to Indiana. In other words, the strict law regulations in California and Illinois are not useful if other states do not have the same governance. Any way that can reduce restriction of guns will benefit everyone in the end, but we need to work as a whole to do so. The easy access teens have to guns is the reason why more unnecessary deaths are occurring. If we can limit the gun regulations, it'll make the world a better and safer place to live. No more school shootings, no more suicides. Even though we do not have control over the people who want to kill, we could have control over how they do so. Instead of wondering what tragedy is going to happen next, we need to start wondering what we need to do to stop it. I am here on this stage to not only show the heartache no gun control has caused, but to leave you question whether it is right to only continue to listen and take no action, or to listen to save lives. Thank you.
Rotary also funds a yearly Coats for Kids program. This program provides winter coats to children in Merrimack who are in need. The club works with the administrator of the town's welfare department to identify those in town who require some assistance to keep warm during the winter. This year, the club provided 29 coats to children in town. And now for our next contestant.
I believe serving your country is the most honorable thing an individual can do in the United States. Men and women who serve in the armed forces are brave and courageous. They put their lives on the line to ensure that the citizens of the United States of America maintain freedom. These warriors inspire me every day to be strong and to never give up on anything. When I graduate college, I'll join this team and become a U.S. Airman. There are 5 branches in the U.S. Armed Forces: the Navy, protecting U.S. sea power across the globe; the Air Force, ensuring the skies of the U.S. remain safe from aerial attacks while also conducting aerial attacks on those who threaten our nation; the Army, soldiers who fight as ground troops often overseas; the Coast Guard, a multi-mission service which enforces the law of the sea domestically and internationally; and finally, the Marine Corps, the most elite group of servicemen in the world who provide power projection on land, at sea, and in the air. The members of the U.S. Armed Forces often give the ultimate sacrifice for their country, their lives. These heroes fight for their people. They fight for you, they fight for me, they fight for all of us. All of this honor and bravery characterizes these people. So why are so many of them, an estimated 70,871, being harassed while they serve when their actions are thought to be courageous? I have the answer. The estimated 70,871 service members are LGBT. What does LGBT stand for? LGBT stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. I want to inform you all that this is a very real issue that shouldn't be dealt with in the future, but needs to be fixed now. The DADT policy, better known as Don't Ask, Don't Tell, was established on February 28, 1994 under the Clinton administration. This policy prohibited the mistreatment and discrimination of closeted homosexual or bisexual service members. It only applies to members who were closeted. Openly gay, lesbian, or bisexuals were not included in this policy. Basically, this means that as long as you didn't admit while you were in service, no one could harass you. This policy outraged me when I first learned of it a few years ago. To me, it seemed like the Clinton administration was using this policy to make it seem like they actually cared about the LGBT population, but they really just wanted the complaints to stop. These people were not allowed to be themselves. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was a ridiculous attempt at giving LGBT service members a chance to serve in peace. On September 20th, 2011, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed by Barack Obama. This repeal allowed all service members to serve openly, attempting to let them serve as exactly who they were. The flaw in the repeal was that it wasn't heavily enforced. According to Staff Sergeant Crystal Lee, who joined the Army in 2001, the repeal was often treated like a joke. It's okay to be gay became a popular phrase among servicemen and women. Since the repeal was treated like a joke, many service members still felt the need to hide, said Lee. Don't get me wrong, the repeal was a step in the right direction, but the issues are still far from over. The truth is, the LGBT population in the military is more than just verbally harassed. Many men and women who serve claim to have seen or experienced sexual abuse while they serve. Brian Lewis, a rape survivor, said that survivors who report their sexual abuse are often deemed troublemakers and liars. Brian was told that he wanted it. It was found that many men and women are accused of being gay or lesbian when they report their experience. Lesbian baiting often occurs when women serve. Lesbian baiting is the practice of pressuring women for sex or sexually harassing women by using the threat of calling them a lesbian as a means of intimidation. Many victims don't come forward in the fear that they'll be harassed for being accused of being gay. It's sad that some service members would rather keep their experience to themselves than risk the chance of being perceived as homosexual. That in itself proves how true and unfair LGBT discrimination and harassment is in the military. The U.S. military allows lesbian, gay, and bisexual individuals to join. This excludes transgender Americans. Will allowing transgender service members into the military be beneficial to all? Absolutely. Some of the strongest and bravest men and women are transgender. Military recruiters are often required to turn away transgender people who wish to enlist. If you already have a career in the military, it can be pulled right from under you if you're discovered as being transgender. Not only is this unfair, but it is a waste of government resources, spending time and money on warriors who will eventually just be removed from service. But worst of all, everyone has a goal in life, something they want to achieve, a dream they want to live. Imagine this. You finally set your greatest of goals. You're happy. Then one day, for no reason at all, it's taken away from you. Your dreams, crushed. You don't understand why this is happening. You worked so hard for this. You earned this. But it doesn't matter because it's all over. You find out why you were fired. It was because they didn't like your tattoo. It was because your haircut wasn't the norm. It was because your nose job wasn't perfect. It was because you were transgender. All you were doing was being yourself. Why did you deserve this? Well, you didn't. And all the transgender individuals out there who are being removed from service, all of these people who have had their dreams destroyed in a matter of seconds, when you get home today and sit in bed before you fall asleep, take a minute to imagine if that was you. Will equal treatment towards LGBT individuals foster goodwill? Of course. Freedom. Isn't that what the United States of America stands for? We're always preaching about being the land of the free. How can we do this when so many are not? So many are not free to be themselves, to show who they truly are, to be proud of who they are. People whose dreams are to save lives, to protect us from possible threat. How can they protect us when they can't even protect themselves from us? Everyone is equal. Man, woman, black, white, heterosexual, homosexual, transgender. America is one entity. I think it's about time we treat LGBT military service members fairly, how they deserve to be treated, as heroes.
There are 3 food pantries in Merrimack, and each are very busy serving those in need. St. John Newman Catholic Church, St. James Methodist Church, and the Riverside Christian Church. Each month, on the first Thursday of the month, the Rotary Club of Merrimack takes up a collection which is then matched by club funds for each of those pantries. Additionally, some proceeds from the Turkey Trot were contributed equally to the 3 pantries this year. Where there is a need in Merrimack, it's there you'll find the Rotary Club. And now our next contestant.
Once there was this little girl. Her existence was negligible in relation to the rest of the world. She lived in a small white house in a small town in a small state. Her house wasn't much, but she had things, countless amounts of things. The little girl knew, unlike the rest of them, the little girl knew that one's happiness did not lie within having things, and so her heart wandered to places outside her house. She soon fell in love with nature and the world around her. She came to discover that although she lived in a house, her home did not consist of 4 walls and a welcome mat. Her home was not just filled with meaningless things, and it was far from negligible. Her home covered 71% of the entire earth, and it was filled with 230,000 known species. Her home was the ocean. She was a child of the tides and could not resist the urge to return to that vast expanse again and again. Her love for it was inextinguishable, and it ignited within her a spirit nothing else was able to do. It was where she learned to surf, it was where her family lived, and it was where she was one with nature. And above all, it was where all the best memories of her life flowed from. Each year, as she changed, the ocean did too. The little girl grew older and older each year until she was not so little anymore. She was 17 and applying to college. She had always dreamed of becoming a marine biologist, but everything was different now. She had dreamed of spending her life in the place she loved, but she realized that that place is becoming destroyed. It is the little girl's dream now, to save her home, to save my home, because global warming is killing it. The truth is that nothing in this world is going to get better unless people begin to believe that something is wrong. The truth is, global warming is real. What I know to be true are the facts, and according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, the release in carbon dioxide from human industrial and agricultural activities has increased the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. The problem is each year, as the atmosphere's CO2 increases, the ocean absorbs 1/4 of it. Many scientists have attempted focusing on the benefits of the ocean removing this greenhouse gas from the atmosphere. But in the end, the ocean was not made to fix our mess. The carbon dioxide absorbed in the ocean is changing the overall chemistry of the water. This is called ocean acidification. For tens of millions of years, Earth's oceans have maintained a relatively stable acidity level. Since the Industrial Revolution, the ocean's acidity has increased about 30%. So no, what we are doing as a species to our oceans is not fair. We take more than our share from the oceans, we poison it, and then we expect it to feed us. It doesn't work that way. Based on our current emission levels of CO2, it is indicated that by the end of this century, surface water of the ocean will be nearly 150% acidic, resulting in a pH that the oceans haven't experienced for more than 20 million years. Ocean acidification is expected to impact ocean species in varying degrees. As of right now, the most dramatic effect is on calcifying species, and when shelled organisms are at risk, so is the rest of the food chain. Today, more than 2 billion people worldwide rely on the ocean as their primary source of protein. Humans need the ocean. The ocean doesn't need us. Every stream, every cloud, and every raindrop goes back to the ocean. The ocean shaped our planet, and it is the reason why our species exist. You ask about goodwill? Well, if we as humans focus our efforts on saving the ocean instead of mindlessly destroying it, only good things will come. Greenhouse gas emissions are increasingly jeopardizing the ocean's critical functions, acidifying our oceans, altering nutrient cycles and temperatures and currents, which result in rising sea levels and stronger storms in the tropics, especially for coastal communities. Some nations, such as the Marshall Islands or Bangladesh, might be swallowed by the vast oceans in the near future, with the consequent potential displacement of millions of people around the world. The oceans covered our entire planet at one point, and it can do it again if things continue, but we still have time to save it. Oceans have an incredible ability to regenerate, rebuild, and restore themselves if we just give them the chance, especially in their role as natural carbon sinks. We as humans need to give them the time to heal, which in the end will benefit us as well. We need the ocean for far more reasons than the ocean needs us. The ocean provides us with food, resources, jobs, livelihood, and many ecological services that are essential for our very survival. Most importantly, the ocean provides half of the oxygen we use to breathe, regulate our climate, and provide us with clean air. One way or another, every living thing on Earth needs the ocean. We as humans need to understand that we are one of those living things. Nature has been around for 4.5 billion years, 22,500 times longer than us. Our future depends upon nature. Whether we disregard it or not, our actions will determine our fate. As for the little girl, she understood something from a childhood book that was overlooked by most children. The Lorax was not just another story made up by Dr. Seuss. It's our story right now. There is no difference between the destruction of a made-up world in a book filled with truffula trees and our own planet filled with its own extraordinary species. It wasn't until the last truffula tree was cut and all the animals had left that the antagonist, the Onceler, began to care. Are we as humans going to wait until our planet is stripped raw due to our own accord before we start to care? Many people believe that we are too far gone to make any difference in the destruction we have caused, but this is not true. We have the power to change the way things are. The Onceler once said, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Unless we as humans start to care about our actions, everything is only going to get worse. No effort in this cause is too small or insignificant because it is not what the action is that matters, it is what the action can become. Unless you start taking action, no one will.
The Turkey Trot 5K is held and sponsored by the Merrimack Rotary on Thanksgiving morning. The race, both for runners and walkers and strollers, starts and finishes at the Merrimack Middle School. This year, the route included Madeline Bennett Drive to Babuzik Lake, Patton Road, and others. This year, there were 395 runners from all over the country visiting Merrimack for Thanksgiving. and deciding to take part in our run, as well as local residents. Proceeds went to the food pantries, holiday gifts, and our Coats for Kids program. The fee is $15 for children, $20 for adults, and that is if you register ahead of time. And then on the day of registration, $15 for children and $25 for adults. Sponsorships for the race are available, and all information can be found at merrimack5k.com. And now our next contestant.
How many of you remember watching television at some point in your lives, and the commercial playing In the Arms of the Angels comes on, asking you to give money to animals who need it? The animals they are attempting to help are those who have been abandoned, neglected, or abused. Dogs who have mange, which is a skin disease caused by mites that causes hair loss, severe itching, and pain. Kittens in boxes on the side of the road left for dead. Animals with severe infections in their limbs for lack of medical care. It is because of commercials like these that I realized I wanted to become a veterinarian, to help any animal that is in pain or who is suffering. According to the American Society for the Prevention of Animal Cruelty, 7.6 million companion animals enter shelters every year. 3.9 million of those are dogs, and 3.4 million are cats. Luckily, 2.7 million of them get adopted out every single year, but the same number are euthanized. Animal cruelty is defined as the crime of inflicting physical pain, suffering, or death to animals beyond necessity for normal discipline. Every state has a law against cruelty, but they vary in maximum sentence for the first offense greatly. According to the StrayPetAdvocacy.org, in California, the maximum sentence is a fine of up to $20,000 and imprisonment up to a year. In Idaho, the fine could be as little as $100, with prison time of up to 6 months. In North Carolina, it is simply the discretion of the court. I believe all of this is wrong. Animal rights shouldn't be as non-existent as they are, not just for animals considered pets, but for animals like chimpanzees, dolphins, whales, and elephants that are considered property. Despite what people think, these animals were not born for our amusement. They were born to live out their lives without poaching in their natural, respective homes. Is it the truth? Animals have little to no rights, leaving them in a position to be taken advantage of. Let's use orcas as an example. According to us.whales.org, there are currently 58 orcas in captivity. Referencing the documentary Blackfish, the whales are held in captivity in pools that are much too small for what is necessary. This results in 100% collapsed dorsal fins because the pressure of swimming in deep ocean waters encourages the fins to stand straight. Orcas in the wild can travel up to 100 miles a day. The equivalent of that in captivity is 1,208 lengths of the pool, or 3,105 lengths of the pool. To put this into the perspective of Merrimack, on an average day, I travel to and from school, to the gym and back, and to work and back to my house. My average day is moving about 28 miles, but if I was in captivity like the whales are, I would be stuck in 7 square feet for my entire life. That is only slightly bigger than a king-size mattress. That space is used to eat, sleep, and bathe in. The only time the whales would ever get to leave is to perform a show for which they are rewarded with fish, then it's back to the tanks until the next show. There is nothing to protect the orcas. They are considered property and left to the mercy of the people or companies who own them. How is increasing rights of all animals fair to everyone who comes in contact with them? I'm sure many of you have been to zoos or aquariums at least once in your life. Many of you don't think of these animals as having families, because to your pets at home, you are their family. Most creatures in the animal kingdom have very large pods, prides, or flocks. An average lion pride in the wild has about 13 members, but can have up to 40. In the San Diego Zoo, there are 6 lions in the exhibit, less than half the size of an average pride. Imagine if half of your family was taken away from you. How happy would you be? We don't think of these animals as being sad or depressed, but imagine spending your entire life in a cage, being trapped in the same place day after day until you die. Humans have the freedom to go wherever we want in the world. Animals should have this opportunity as well in habitats they belong in. How will increasing the rights of animals create goodwill and better friendships? We must first work to clean up the mess already created by neglect before we can start working on the future of preventing animals from even experiencing it. Cruelty has already happened to animals all over the world, including in inhumane puppy mills that in the United States turn out about 2 million puppies every single year. Helping these animals, the ones in shelters or that are just left on the streets, will bring people together. Taking in a foster animal is one thing we can do to help. Overpopulation of shelters is one of the reasons that 2.7 million animals are euthanized every year. Friendships can be made between people who foster dogs through socialization of the animals or even playdates. How will increasing animal rights benefit all concerned? To answer this question, I must ask you another. Have all of you seen examples of violence to animals? I certainly have. Like an average teenager, I use social media a lot. And one day I was on Facebook and a video popped up with one of those find him and lock him up captions. It was someone in their garage or basement. They had a young cat in their hand and their phone in the other recording it. The person then proceeded to throw the cat against the wall and record it crawling away. It was clear the animal could not use its hind legs anymore, and it tried hiding under the things in the room, but the person found it and threw it against the wall again. In complete honesty, I never finished the video. I closed the app as quickly as I could and never seen the same video again. I just couldn't watch someone do that to a defenseless animal repeatedly, for whatever sick reasoning they had to do it. I'm sure we can all agree our days would be better not seeing this in the news or on social media. Whether it be animals that we consider man's best friend or those that we fear, they should all be given equal rights. Cats and dogs are obviously domesticated enough that they do not belong alone in the wild anymore. But animals like lions and gazelles that we take from the wild merely to stare at for our own pleasure just isn't right. The world would be so much more beautiful if we didn't have to stare at these majestic animals who've been behind bars their entire lives. Animals who are meant to be free and enjoy their natural habitats. It all starts with the little things. Next time the commercial comes on and plays this sad song, don't switch the channel. Call and donate money to animals who have already fallen victim to cruelty and neglect. That is all any of us can do until a law is passed that prevents them from being hurt at all. Thank you.
The 4th of July Family Fun Day is brought to you here in Merrimack by the Rotary Club of Merrimack. It is the largest fundraiser of the Rotary year. The day of fun, games, contests, food, activities, music, and vendor tables takes place on the 4th of July on the grounds of the James Mastrocola Upper Elementary School. The day begins with a hot pancake breakfast at 8 a.m., where the community comes together to enjoy pancakes, sausages, juice, and coffee. After the town-sponsored parade, Family Fun Day opens. After opening ceremonies, the public is welcome to listen to local bands, watch a demonstration by the Merrimack Police Department's Gunny, the trained police dog, and other entertainment. Children love the bouncy houses, games, crafts, and other contests for prizes. Food from ice cream to fried dough, cotton candy, and burgers can all be found, and sponsorships are available also for Family Fun Day. For more information on this, the largest fundraiser of the Rotary year, please go to merrimack4th.com. And now, our next contestant.
I don't want to imagine a world where someone other than myself has the right to tell me what to do with my body. It's my body, it's my choice. Your body, your choice. Yet that is what a government that makes abortion illegal is doing, denying its citizens a choice. The government has no right to force a woman to carry a child that she does not believe she cannot take care of. It's her choice, and it's that choice that's at the heart of the current debate surrounding abortion. It is that personal choice that lawmakers will deny women if abortion is made illegal. In my opinion, that is wrong. According to Global Issues and Context, abortion is frequently defined as the termination of an established pregnancy in which the embryo or fetus is expelled from the body before it's capable of independent life. Abortions are currently a very controversial topic, but why? Abortion rates hit their peak in the 1980s, and ever since, it's been on a decline due to more effective birth control methods. The government recently defunded Planned Parenthood, and according to Slate.com, due to this decision, more unplanned pregnancies will occur and abortion rates will increase greatly. In 2011, the abortion rate was 16.9 per 1,000 women ages 15 to 44. Many politicians believe that making abortion illegal will cause a decline in abortions altogether, but that simply is not true. If abortions become illegal, many women will still get the procedure, just in unsanitary and unprofessional conditions. According to David O'Brien, an author published on World Book, in the 70s, many women that wanted to terminate their pregnancies had to turn to these dangerous methods. The mortality rate of women who obtain abortions illegally is due to unsanitary conditions. According to the World Health Association, unsafe abortions cause about 68,000 maternal deaths each year. Many of these deaths happen in countries that are still developing, which is why it's difficult for them to access safe and legal abortion clinics. What confuses me is why a government would allow this outrageous amount of deaths to occur by making abortion illegal. It is true that women should have the right to choose, because it's important that everyone that becomes a parent is ready to handle this challenge. Raising a child is not an easy task that not everyone has the ability to do. There are also reasons beyond failure of birth control why a woman would want to terminate her pregnancy. According to Deborah Ann Driscoll, medical doctor, some women choose to have an abortion due to profound abnormalities that could cause a death. Some children will be born with severe abnormalities that could cause their death in just days after birth. If a woman finds out that her child cannot possibly live to be even a couple of days old, it's true that she should have the right to terminate that pregnancy if she feels that it's necessary. Many women who keep babies that they did not want in the first place often lack the love that parents need to show their children. According to the Colorado Department of Health and Public Information, unintended pregnancies are associated with birth defects, low birth weight, maternal depression, increased risk of child abuse, lower educational attainment, delayed entry into paternal care, high risk of physical violence during pregnancy, and reduced rates of breastfeeding. Many of these children end up abused or in foster care systems. Allowing women the right to choose is fair to all concerned. Everyone that should have the right to decide what they can or cannot do with their own body. A woman should never be forced to carry a child that she's not capable of taking care of or loving. It does not concern anyone else besides the family involved, so there's absolutely no reason that the government should be involved. Also, according to the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, a fetus cannot possibly feel the pain of an abortion. There is no scientific evidence to prove that a fetus can be hurt or feel the pain. In addition, under the Constitution of the United States, a fetus is not yet classified as a person, therefore abortion is not murder. Women having the right to choose will foster goodwill, because women who feel that they cannot take care of their child will prevent a child being born that will not be loved by its parents. Many pro-life advocates claim that these children can be adopted or fostered after birth, but how does that make a difference? If pregnancy puts a woman's health or life at risk, there's no reason she should have to carry on with the pregnancy. Also, even if a child is born to a mother that cannot care for that child, the number of children in foster care and adoption agencies in the United States is already too high for every child to be loved and cared for. According to the United States Department of Health and Human Services, 415,192 children in the United States were in foster care. Out of all of those children, only 50,000 were adopted. This still leaves hundreds of thousands of children living their day-to-day life in foster care without a stable family. Women having the right to choose is beneficial to everyone involved, because if a pregnancy needs to be terminated for any reason, whether it be rape, deformity, unwanted pregnancy, or risk to a mother's health or life, the woman and her family should be able to choose the option that benefits their family and their life. A woman's right to choose is much more than meets the eye. It's more than just don't have sex or use a condom, because there's much more to it than just failed birth control methods. Women having the right to choose is empowering to women everywhere, knowing that they can choose what they can and cannot do with their own body. Just a few weeks ago, a man by the name of Robert L. Deere Jr. was accused of walking into a Planned Parenthood clinic and killing 3 people. He claimed to be a warrior of the babies and attacked this clinic as a pro-life advocate. Ironic much? A man that is pro-life gunning people down because they were using their basic human rights. It doesn't make much sense, does it? Attacks like this may continue to happen until people around the world accept the fact that women have the basic human right to do what they please with their own body. So let me ask you all to fight for your rights. Stand up and don't let anyone determine what the best option is for you, because the only person who should be making these personal choices is you.
Christmas tree sales take place throughout the month of December. Monday through Friday in the old Shaw's parking lot on Daniel Webster Highway is where the sales are held year after year. As one of the largest fundraisers of the Rotary year, proceeds continue to fund the community. The club contributes to Meals on Wheels, the Girl and Boy Scouts to recognize outstanding scouts in both organizations, the Merrimack Firefighter Thanksgiving Fund, and Circles USA. The club also recognizes local businesses and employees during the annual Excellence in the Workplace program, which is held every April. Members of the public are able to nominate for these recognitions. So if you know of an excellent employee that you would like our club to recognize at its Excellence in the Workplace meeting in April, please be sure to see one of us Rotarians tonight and let us know who that person may be so we can rightfully recognize them in the public eye. And now for our next contestant.
One night, I was waiting for my sister to come home from the urgent care where we both work. She was late because a man came to the door shouting he needed help. He had a woman slumped over his shoulder, and her entire body was blue. They rushed her into the procedure room where everyone was moving full speed to get her back. After several minutes of trying to revive this woman, she started to pink up. They asked the man what had happened, and he said he found the woman on the side of the road. But that really wasn't the true story. This woman had overdosed on heroin, and it wasn't her first time. She was lucky, but many others aren't. After hearing this story and thinking about what my sister and coworkers had to witness, it impacted me because they had to witness someone almost dying, and that's something anyone in medicine never really want to face. This story made me realize that since destructive decisions of one individual can impact an entire community, we as a community need to be proactive in helping those who are making these destructive decisions. Certainly, many people in our community are making destructive decisions, whether it's with drugs, alcohol, or even distracted driving. And while it is still important to get the help to adults, our community needs to focus on its teenage citizens. According to recent studies, 9 out of 10 Americans who have met medical criteria for addiction started smoking, using drugs, or even drinking before the age of 18. If so many people addictions start so early, why don't they get the help they need then? In my personal opinion, I don't think a teen individually decides to get drunk or high. I think it's the effects of those around them and the peer pressure that they are faced with. Teens usually look to the guidance of their peers, not adults, because they think adults don't know anything about being a teenager. But I think if we as a society can show teens that we understand the pressures of adolescence, we can help them get through the hard times and overcome addictions or prevent them before they even begin. And while the heroin epidemic is on everyone's mind right now, as it should be, it is also important to remember destructive decisions aren't always in the form of overdose. The sad truth is, destructive decisions come in too many forms to mention in 7 minutes. We as a society need to step up and help teens stop making wrong decisions in any form while they can still learn from their mistakes. It is true that the teenage years are when most bad decisions start to occur. Trust me, as a teenager myself, I know we start to understand more and have easier accessibility to things. Teens are starting to be able to drive, and most likely there's a phone in the car. And with a phone, there's most likely texting. Every 15 minutes, a car accident is occurring, and a majority of those accidents are caused by drunk or distracted driving. It may not seem in a traditional sense, but this is a destructive decision. I was almost struck by another vehicle due to the teenage driver being distracted by the phone, and by the time she realized that she was coming straight at me, she swerved her car, went right over a walk wall, and went down an embankment. It destroyed her car, but it could have destroyed us both. More community involvement is fair to require because it can help teens live a longer life, because some of the teens' decisions that they are making are life-threatening. Sometimes a teen doesn't know what decision is the right decision, and they need the help of others, not necessarily a peer, to provide them with the guidance to make a right choice. The earlier an addiction is stopped, the brighter the future can be for a teen. I think that a teen, in order to be fair to all teens need to be able to get the same treatment. I think teens who are really struggling with addiction and are still in school, for example, shouldn't have to pay to see someone for help. They should be able to seek help in the school free of charge. Helping teens not make bad decisions is also fair to the community because it will make the community a safer and happier place. When teens make bad decisions, they use up resources that can be used in real life-threatening illnesses that people can't control. For example, a doctor might be tied up reviving someone who overdosed when they could be helping someone suffering from a heart attack. Helping teens learn to not make destructive decisions will foster goodwill because it prepares the next generation for success, and they, in turn, will be able to make healthy choices ready to help the next generations of teens. I have a friend who was addicted to alcohol and suicidal throughout her middle school and high school career. Eventually, she was able to get the help she needed to overcome her addiction and suicidal thoughts. She is now 3 years sober and now goes to schools and places to tell stories to kids and teens and help those who are in danger or have risk of getting into danger due to poor choices. She shares her personal story and trusts that others will learn from her. She is fostering goodwill so others will benefit, And helping these teens not make destructive decisions will benefit everyone because the violence in the community will decrease and the death rates will decrease. It will be a safer community. It can bring people who went through a hardship back together. It will also increase the economy immensely because the money spent to send out paramedics, police, or firefighters will decrease because they don't have to pay to be dispatched daily for car accidents, an overdose, or other destructive decisions. With the help of the community to make destructive decisions among teens less common or to stop them, we can become a closer, safer, more relaxed community because the teens are getting the aids they need and stopping the addiction from carrying on later into life. I'm the treasurer of the SAD Club here at Merrimack High School, and we entered a 2-and-2 contest sponsored by State Farm. 2-and-2 is a program that enforces 2 hands on the wheel and 2 eyes on the road. The winner of the contest would receive $100,000 for their school, and with that money, we wanted to get a drug and alcohol abuse counselor. Even though we didn't win this contest, I think we should still make an effort to get the help to those in schools that need it. I don't think we need a competition to make this idea become a reality. One voice isn't loud enough to be heard in the chaos of the community. We need a louder voice, and maybe with a louder voice, the community will realize that its youth is the most precious entity and it's worth protecting. Thank you.
The Hollis Brookline Rotary Club is doing a fantastic job tonight judging our contestants, and they've helped us out in this contest for years. So at this time, I'd like to recognize the president this year of the Hollis Brookline Club, Vanu Rawls, to perhaps tell us a little bit about what's going on in his club. Vanu?
Thank you. Besides myself from Hollis Brookline Rotary Club, my colleagues are here. Peter Bennett, Basil Harris, and Ethan Zara. And we have been coming here, I think, for the 5th year, I think now. And we love to come to this, and we feel honored to be invited because the students, they give such a personal and human stories that we usually carry some tissues in our pockets when we come here. So thank you for calling us and giving us this opportunity. And our club, like your club, we are about 27, 28 members, and we have 3 fundraisers, and we raise about $35,000, $36,000, and we give out every year minimum $30,000 for the local and for our charities around our local and also international projects. And we were chartered in 1996, and ever since we have raised and given away over $600,000 for our local charities. And I do not know how many of you know, in 2024, our district, which has about 60 clubs, in 1 year, we have raised over $2 million, and we gave away about $1,800,000 for charities in our local communities. And I don't think even some of the Rotarians know this fact, how good the Rotary does. This is locally, and also it's so powerful, the Rotary is so powerful. If you know somebody internationally, they have a need, you find every dollar you give becomes $3.50. That's the power of Rotary. You can do projects outside the world. But anyway, thank you for inviting us, and we love to come here every year, and hope you keep inviting us. Thank
you, Vanu. And now for our next contestant.
A cupcake, but not just any ordinary cupcake, the most delicious and scrumptious cupcake you will ever find. It's soft and it tastes sweet. The perfectly frosted top is a creamy swirl of sweetness that tastes smooth and sugary without being too rich. And it will never be mine. Instead, I get the cupcake that nobody wants. The one that crumbles when you try to eat it. The one that tastes like dry sand in your mouth as you chew. Not to mention the gritty feeling in your teeth and the awful aftertaste that will last long after the cupcake is gone. I wish I could eat the first mouth-watering cupcake that I mentioned, but that dessert will always just tempt me. Since I was 13, I have realized that I will always be forced to have the gross cupcake. This is because around that time, I was diagnosed with celiac disease and condemned to follow a gluten-free lifestyle as my treatment. Following a life without gluten is literally having a life without all your favorite foods. No pizza, no pasta, no bread, no snack foods, and no baked goods. And that's just the start. Because of my condition, if I were to eat even the smallest bit of these tasty treats, I would get a horrible stomachache and a pounding headache. It's hard to always watch what you eat, as I'm sure any of you who have ever been on a diet could realize. Living with a permanent gluten-free diet, I get frustrated when people choose to go gluten-free just because it's trendy. People who do not have celiac disease, gluten sensitivity, or wheat allergy should not follow a gluten-free diet. First of all, it's true that these people should not follow a gluten-free diet. It's true that these people should not follow a gluten-free diet unless medically required because the so-called benefits are actually non-existent. A common misconception is that going gluten-free will help you to lose weight or be more healthy. Well, this is false. The idea is completely false, and even Dr. Arthur Agatson, author of the South Beach Diet, states that people who go off gluten to lose weight end up gaining weight instead. He says this is because people consume gluten-free products that are often just as high in saturated fat, sugar, and sodium as other junk food. And like junk food, some gluten-free products can trigger cravings and raise your blood sugar. People who go gluten-free not only fail to improve their health or fail to lose weight, but they also hurt the integrity of the people like me who actually need to be gluten-free. The people who are trying a new diet give the people like me a bad rap, and this is not fair. When I tell people that I'm gluten-free, I don't want them to think that I'm this health nut or valley girl who just got off her juice cleanse. When people who don't need to go gluten-free do so anyways, it's frustrating for the rest of us who actually need to stay off gluten because we can't just quit the diet or cheat or splurge whenever we'd like to. According to a Gallup poll published July 23rd, 21% of Americans are currently making an active attempt to eat gluten-free. That percentage dwarfs the 1% of the American population that is diagnosed with celiac disease. This statistic represents that there are a lot of people out there who don't eat wheat or whole grains, which means that they're missing out on the essential benefits that these foods provide. Eating whole grains can help the body fight off disease, slow aging, feel more full, help weight management, and lower the risk of many types of cancer. The problem is that most gluten-free processed foods are not made with these nutrient-rich, health-protecting whole grains. As such, the gluten-free label has very little to do with the nutritional value of the food. For example, French fries and many candies are naturally gluten-free, and we all know how well those foods help us to lose weight. Spoiler alert, they don't. Fewer people following the gluten-free diet will foster goodwill because then people with real gluten intolerance will not be treated carelessly. For example, about a year ago, I had heard that the Olive Garden was serving gluten-free pasta, and as you would know it, I was in the next day to try it. I was sitting down and I got my meal. I had ordered the gluten-free pasta with Alfredo sauce. It tasted great. And then it got even better because the waitress came out and she said that I had ordered some special buy one, take one home sort of deal, and she asked what dish I would like to take home with me that night. I said that since my meal was so good the first time, I'd like to take home another plate of the gluten-free pasta with Alfredo sauce. It was then that she decided to tell me that the Alfredo sauce was not actually gluten-free. I said, "Are you kidding me? I have celiac, so I have to be gluten-free," already thinking of the huge stomachache I would have later. She said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were just getting the noodles for that fun diet or whatever." I was like, no. Long story short, my experience at Olive Garden is the epitome of how people with real gluten intolerance are treated like they're just doing the diet to follow a trend. That's why, if there are fewer people on a gluten-free diet, it will foster goodwill for the people who actually need to be gluten-free. Finally, if people who do not have celiac disease or wheat allergy do not follow a gluten-free diet, then it would be beneficial to everyone involved because gluten-intolerant individuals will not be grouped and treated like everyone else who goes gluten-free, and nobody will be tricked to follow a diet that would not actually benefit them. Like I said before, gluten-free isn't actually as healthy as it's cracked up to be. Sure, you may feel healthy when you go on the diet, but that's probably only because you cut out all the high sugar, high carb foods that happen to contain gluten. However, there's an easier solution. Before you rush into a gluten-free diet, why not try something simple, say an apple or some exercise, or would you prefer to live a life of no bread, pasta, or birthday cakes? In conclusion, going gluten-free when it is not absolutely necessary does more harm than good. That's why people who do not have celiac disease or wheat allergy should not follow a gluten-free diet. Don't jump on the bandwagon when you don't need to. Going gluten-free needs to be taken more seriously because it is a lifestyle, not a fad.
Okay, I believe that was our last contestant. So the judges now are tallying the final score. And while they do that, just to tell you a little bit about the Interact Club. Now the Interact Club is part of Rotary. The Interact Club is the high school version of Rotary with its own officers, members, and fundraisers. It runs from September through June, the school year, and their September fundraiser is to clean up after the race at Loudon. In October, members assist with Halloween festivities at our very own Wasserman Park. And in the fall, there's an apple orchard event. 2 to 4 Interact Club members attend what's called RYLA, R-Y-L-A, standing for Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, which is a leadership development program run by Rotary International and is coordinated by clubs around the globe. In April, the Interact Club helps the Merrimack Rotary Club with its annual rabies clinic that takes place at the garage over here at the town hall. So keep that in mind for those of you who own pets. And the Rotary Club members also help Rotarians with Christmas tree sales and are very helpful. We're very grateful for their commitment to service in the community and for their help in our fundraisers. Now, just to remind you that the rules of the contest tonight are set forth by Rotary, and the prizes are funded by the Rotary Club of Merrimack at $250 for the winner. Second prize is a $150 check. $75 goes to our third place winner, and for all of those runner-ups, $25 apiece. The winners also get an opportunity to attend a Merrimack Rotary meeting on a Thursday morning to read their speeches to the club during our breakfast meeting, and they also get to proceed to a higher contest within the district as well to read their winning speeches. So that's where we're at in our program. Judges, do we have?
We need to take about a 5-minute break because we have to write checks and we have to just do some special tallying.
Very good. So we will recess for 5 minutes, 5 minutes exact, and then announce our winners. Thank you. All right, if we could all return to our seats. We have some very exciting news for everyone. We have our winners, and we would ask that our winners come forward on the stage to receive your check, and then remain here if we could for a group photo, which I think would work very nicely. So we're going to start with those honorable mentions. Each receives a check for $25. So let's begin with Darwin Carr-Oza. Yes, I told you we had exciting news. Kelly Eno. Let's hear it for Nick Greenlee. Caitlin Watkins. Courtney McCarthy. Good job. Colleen Dow. And Casey Wright. Now our third prize winner. Third prize, Jack Steins.
Thank you. It's gluten-free.
Second place, a tie. Yes. Please give it up for Jesse Landoni and Ingrid Havren. And first place, with not only a generous check, but also a very nice plaque, which reads, Rotary Four-Way Test Speech Contest, the Merrimack Rotary Club recognizes your winning performance in orally communicating the application of the Rotary Four-Way Test as a moral and ethical model for behavior, decision-making, and life practices of the things we think, say, or do. We ask, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Maureen Mooney, President, Merrimack Rotary Club, January 14, 2016, awarded to Erica Lane.